All right, it's to look at this process to nominate the next Public Protector of South Africa. We are joined by legal expert, Advocate Modidima Mannya. A very warm welcome to you, and thanks so very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Good evening, Flo, and good evening to your viewers.
All right, let's start here. What's been your overall assessment after taking a look at the candidates who were shortlisted and, of course, grilled and interviewed this past week? Who would you say, in this case, the sort of stronger candidates? And I ask this with much caution because, our very own board member, Advocate Sidiso, is, of course, also in line there. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, but firstly, Flo, let me say that the Public Protector Office is now a poison chalice.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's going to be nominated and appointed. It's already gone from one difficulty to another. And that difficulty partly not created by the office itself, by the very people who are appointing the Public Protector. Because, as you know, when politicians lose the battles in Parliament, which is their battleground where they should slug it out, they run to Chapter 9 institutions, which were actually intended for ordinary members of the public. If you look, for instance, at our courts, the Constitutional Court is kept busy by politicians fighting instead of adjudicating disputes between, ordinary people. So at the end of the day, regardless of who's going to be nominated and appointed, as long as the political parties see Chapter 9 institutions as not institutions supporting constitutional democracy, but their political agenda, then we have a problem.
Yeah, and I think in a book written by Judge Dennis Davis, he alludes to this, the fact that there's this sort of mingling of, whether it is Chapter 9 institutions or the legal arm and the political arm. And certainly, would you say this is one of the biggest, issues indeed that have been the problem with this institution, what Judge Davis calls lawfare ultimately?
Yes, certainly. I mean, if you look, in a constitutional democracy such as ours, which is based on a party political system, we vote for parties. We actually lose control the minute we have finished voting because the political parties choose who goes there. But you find a party with just one or two seats seeking to dictate policy, seeking to dictate decisions. It's ridiculous. I mean, this is a game of numbers. With more votes, you get more influence.
Yeah,
and I'm not by any means saying those with majority should abuse it.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned that you have a party with only two seats in Parliament objecting to everything.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, there have been questions raised about some of the candidates, and I certainly won't name names, but there were questions about, eligibility and, what was the vetting process, when it comes to the selection of those who were shortlisted, given, perhaps how they had performed in those interviews. Let's talk about this particular process. When we saw the long list initially, and it obviously then got cut to a shorter list, and those were those that we saw. What is the whole process, and what does it take to ultimately be one of the candidates that are shortlisted?
Look, ideally, Flo, merit should be the first major eligibility criteria. But before the committee could even sit and object, by virtue of some knowing who applied, they started objecting. You then wonder whether they had applied their objective mind in the shortlisting process or whether it was a bargaining process of sorts, and it then reflects in the interviews.
Yeah.
And as you know, Flo, you could be as much prepared as you want going to an interview, but you may end up just freezing and not performing in line with your own preparation. So really nothing turns on that. Of course, those that have made the best impressions are the ones who should be considered first,
Yeah.
So the whole process starts with Parliament. The candidates apply to Parliament. The committee is the one that looks at people. You can't shortlist people and then start their eligibility during an interview. When you have withered down, there could probably have been 200 candidates.
Yeah.
How did you choose the 8? Why were you choosing the 8? Why are you now questioning their credibility? Because what my understanding is, the 8 should be the top of the cream of those who applied. So any one of them should stand a chance of being appointed.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to remember which legal analyst was on our show. We were talking about how it might benefit Advocate Gcaleka, the fact that, you know, she's been acting as the public protector for some time. And this legal analyst that we spoke to said it might actually work against her because, you know, anything that she has so far, you know, kind of, you know, judged on or spoken on might be used against her. And we certainly did see that come through, didn't we, during her interview?
Look, I mean, I think, again, the question is whether this process, in terms of what it is, represents what we want as the citizens. You know, we want a public protector who's capable. We don't want a public protector who's liked by this or that other political party.
Yeah.
That's not what we are looking for. Logically, Advocate Gcaleka has been a deputy public protector. She probably should be in pole position. She knows the operations. She has been involved. She's got the experience. You know, she's a young African woman, you know, and she might just meet the criteria. But I think what we should prevent as South Africans is one or two individuals coming up with conspiracies. I don't know what we expect our judges to do. If we go to court floor and we say this is the case, we expect the judges to apply the law. If people go to the public protector, whether it's Advocate Gcaleka or whoever, and they say the president did this or didn't do this, they must provide the evidence because she's not going to use speculation and conjecture. That would be unconstitutional.
Yeah. And how do we stop this, you know, this office from being what you earlier referred to as, you know, a poisoned chalice? And I must say that's quite concerning. And especially given the fact that, you know, some people have said, you know, these days you can tell which way a Chapter 9 institution head might lean, depending on who, you know, is at the seat of power. That certainly is a very concerning thing.
Yes, you know, I've said in the past, and I repeat it, Flo, here, that I think the day Parliament decided that the public protector must do investigations in terms of the Members' Ethics Act, that is the day they started the process of destroying, you know, the office of the public protector, because it has now become a political, you know, football. Parliament should hold everybody that we elect accountable themselves. You see, the problem with Parliament is they can't even hold each other accountable. If you go to Parliament, you'll find that there are members who have not been there even for the past 3 or 6 months. Nothing is done about it. You know, the people sleep in Parliament. They find it normal. Now, when it comes to a public protector, they give us contested issues. That's not actually what the founding mothers and fathers of our constitutional democracy intended with that office. I think the first immediate thing that is done is to move the responsibility of the public protector to investigate these politicians. Yeah. They must investigate themselves. They have got all the powers. Remember, Parliament can subpoena you, Flo.
Yeah.
You know, why can't they subpoena each other?
All right.
Let the public protector focus on providing cost-effective remedies to ordinary citizens instead of being part of this political game that we see here.
All right, point well taken. Thank you very much for giving us your input there. That is the legal expert, Advocate Modidima Mannya.